Well, since they quit, who's gonna run the show? How long till broadcast? Oh, great, 15 seconds. So yes, I have to both direct this, run this, and host this. Alright then. Test 1 2 1 2. Clear frame, please. And counting to me. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play. Hello everyone and welcome to Distro Reviews 3. You're probably like, what is Distro Reviews 3? And my answer to that is, well, the finale. You're probably shocked. I am ending Distro Reviews, and the answer is yes, I'm ending Distro Reviews. Normally, this would be a video where I would just be like, hey, welcome back to season 3 of Distro Reviews. Today we have this distro. But I decided to end the series, and I'm not gonna make you wait until the end in order to announce to you why I'm ending it. I'm just gonna spit it out right now. It's just because you can't really rank distros. Everyone has a different experience with Linux distros and with computers and with all that, so you just can't do this. That's why season 3 took so long to be launched, and that's why I'm renaming it to just 3 and not season 3. It's gonna be completely different. It's gonna be one video, 4 distros, which I've already used, basically. That's what we're gonna do, just to end things off. I'm gonna give you my opinions about the distros that I have used. It's gonna be on a podcast-like level, which basically means that it's gonna be mostly audio. While I'm reviewing this, there won't be any moving pictures or anything, just the desktop and just me talking. I won't have a face cam or anything. Yeah, it's experimental, to say the least, but I think that it's gonna be really funny, and I think that's a great way of ending these reviews. Obviously, at the end, we're gonna rank everything, and I don't really want to continue talking and talking and talking for hours. We'll just go straight into it, 4 distros, and let's get started, I guess, with the distro that I use right now. Let's get started with Fedora. Now, what can I say about Fedora? Fedora has been and probably will be my go-to operating system for over 3 years now. Like, at least 2 years. I remember that I first installed it with the release of Fedora 31, but I've already been on and off using it since Fedora 29. And with Fedora 31 I decided to go full-time Fedora, but I couldn't because I wasn't sure what to do with the hard disk configuration, because back then the auto partitioning wasn't really the best, so yeah, I couldn't use it. But since Fedora 32 or 33, I think it was Fedora 32, Fedora 33, when they switched to Btrfs, yeah. Since then I've been using it every single day of the year, or of the years, plural I should say, and I have been loving it. Okay, it has been so far probably the best distro that I've ever used. That's not to say that it doesn't have its quirks, but I do actually really like it. Fedora actually follows the semi-rolling release schedule, which means that basically everything is bleeding edge, except for the desktop environment and some other core components, which get updated every 6 months. Fedora gets releases basically the same time as Ubuntu. Sometimes it's a bit later, so for instance, this time with Fedora 36, it got delayed by 3 weeks or 2 weeks, I don't really remember, but at least they ensured that it was a quality product before releasing. Updates are handled by the GNOME software app if you want a GUI way, and I personally prefer it because it gives you on the same page all your Flatpak or your snaps, if you use snaps. I don't know who still uses snaps, but yeah, if you use snaps, it also gives you the updates there. But yeah, Flatpak, snaps, and obviously the system updates. And then it also would say that, you know, these application updates are fine through DNF or through Flatpak, you can do them, but these might be a little bit dangerous to do them right now, so we will download them, and then when you're ready, we will reboot and update, and it will go to a page that says that it is installing updates, and with the Fedora logo and the progress bar, it will shut down, and then will reboot back to your system. This is called offline upgrades. It's the command, actually, you can do this through the terminal. It's as a super user, so you do sudo dnf offline-upgrade download, and then you do the same, but instead of download, you type reboot, and it will do all the updates and everything. I personally really like it because I know that the system will update correctly and nothing will be broken. At least I hope so. And it's actually a really good feature because I can have all the updates downloaded, and then when I'm ready to leave my house, for example, I can just select power off, and then I use GNOME, so the actual shutdown prompt will have a checkbox that will be actually checked on by default, which I like, and it says to install all pending updates. You hit shutdown, it will reboot, install all the updates, and then fully shut down, which is something that I do really love about offline upgrades, and that's why on every single distro I've tried, I want to have offline upgrades. I remember that I did the same with KDE Neon last summer, almost a year ago, but I had a lot of problems with it. Most of the times it would just mess everything up, and also with Arch Linux it would mess everything up. So yeah, that's why I really love this feature of Fedora, because it works perfectly fine. How much RAM the system actually uses? Well, I have actually no idea. Right now that I have a couple of web pages open through Brave nightly version, and I also have Tenacity recording my beautiful, I know, voice, it's currently using around 4.9 gigabytes out of my 8 gigabytes of RAM, and I also have an 8.3 gigabyte swap. So yeah, swap is currently used like 82.6 megabytes, and memory is tagged on 4.9 gigabytes, which I'm not sure if it's okay or not. I guess it is. I don't really see a problem with RAM being full on this computer when I'm doing like ordinary stuff. Okay, obviously if I'm playing games or something, I will start to see some performance issues with RAM, and I would see the swap being used actively. But currently I don't see any of these. CPU usage is pretty low. I can see that most of the cores are around 1 to 5%, and just 1 or 2 are 10% to 15%. But it's not really drawing any power. The actual installation right now takes around, let's see, 144.2 gigabytes. That is my /home folder, and /boot is around 252 megabytes, and the FI 14.5 megabytes. I've obviously been using this OS, this current installation, since last year. Yeah, since last year. So I think it's okay to be using 60% of my internal hard drive. Obviously, I have 1 terabyte also internal, but just for my data and everything, and I've used around 50% of that. But yeah, Flatpak, App Image, and Snap support. Flatpak support, I think, comes enabled out of the box, but you just have to enable the actual GNOME software support by downloading a Flatpak first or something. I don't really remember. I haven't installed Fedora in a long while, but I think that that's how you actually do it. Or maybe it's... No, I think that it's enabled out of the box. You don't have to do anything like that. Yeah, it is. App Image support, it works exactly how you would expect any distro to use app images. I personally use the app image launcher so that I can integrate them. So for instance, I used to do that with Balena Etcher because that's how I used to burn all my ISOs. Right now I use GNOME Disk to do that because it's way faster. Let's see what I use it right now. Basically, I use it for my download manager, which is Motrix right now. I don't really love it. I prefer Persepolis, but yeah. And for Olive Video Editor, which I haven't used in like 3 years right now, I use DaVinci Resolve, but yeah. The UbiPorts installer, because in case you didn't know, I do actually have a Ubi Touch device right here in front of me. It's currently powered on, and yeah, I use it basically every single day. Okay, not every single day, but I use it whenever I actually record, so that I can like see my notes here if my if I can't on my screen. Right now I don't really have to use it, but it is on. I'll actually post a picture right here of how like the actual setup that I use right now works. Yeah, let's grab my phone. Now, in terms of included applications and the kernel and everything, I'm not sure what Fedora 36 comes by default, like kernel-wise, but I know that it is the latest version. Let's see. Yeah, right now I'm using 5.17.12-300.Fedora 36, and I did a kernel update yesterday? I don't remember, a few days ago. Yeah, but I'm sure that it will update to 5.18 soon, or whenever I don't think that it will update when Fedora 37 comes out. I think that it will update before that, if I'm being honest with you right now. Drivers wise, here's where we have all the actual problems with Fedora, but don't worry, they're not problems that will completely ruin your experience. They're just some things that could have been done a little bit better, if I'm being honest. The first time you install Fedora and you open the GNOME software, it will ask you if you want to enable third-party repositories, which is something that you basically have to do if you want to install all the media codecs, multimedia codecs, I'm sorry. And if you want to install Steam and the NVIDIA drivers. But if you enable the NVIDIA drivers repository right from there, you won't get the NVIDIA drivers. You have to go to RPM Fusion, and then to how to, and then to NVIDIA drivers, see all the warnings, try to figure out what stuff you need to install, copy some commands over, enable some other repositories, do some weird stuff. And then the worst part is that the first time that I tried to do it, I finished all the process, it took me like 30 minutes, I powered down my computer and rebooted, and nothing was working, Xorg wouldn't launch. So yeah, it wasn't the best thing in the world. What actually happened was that after you finish this process, you have to wait for at least 5 minutes for the modules to be rebuilt, and you don't get a progress bar or a notification when this is done, you just have to wait. So right now, if I had to reinstall, and which I did a few months ago, no, exactly a year ago actually, 1 year minus 2 months ago. Basically, I can do it in like 10 minutes, install all the NVIDIA drivers and reboot and everything. But the first time is a bit hard and can be a bit overwhelming for new to Linux users like I was back then. But yeah, all in all, it's not really the best experience. I think that the way that Elementary OS and Pop OS do the drivers is probably the best. So, for instance, Pop OS would just include drivers out of the box using a just different ISO, and Elementary OS you could just go to the software center, and under updates it would also say what other drivers you can install, and that is probably the best you can do. And now, gaming wise, this is weird, okay? Before Fedora 36 came out, I was using Xorg obviously because I run NVIDIA, and I had not really a problem, I would say, but just an instability, like sometimes games would crash completely unexpectedly. And I remember with a lot of Steam games, some video files weren't downloaded properly, so it would just display the video missing from each engine. I don't know what every game engine uses. Yeah, but it would display something along the lines of test video, actual video file missing or something. This actually got fixed when Fedora 36 came out, so I did the upgrade, I boot my computer, and everything is basically done. I never experienced this problem again since then. I'm not sure what it was, but yeah. Right now I'm using Wayland because it actually performs way nicer than Xorg, and I do really love it. And I do experience some issues, especially with GTA 5 through the Rockstar Games Launcher through Wine. These issues are no longer here. They were though during the first couple of weeks of the release, but that was probably because the optimization just weren't there, because Wayland on NVIDIA is still something really new. But overall, gaming, Fedora is a okay solution if you want gaming. I don't really do a lot of gaming. It's not that I do none of gaming, but I don't really do all that much gaming nowadays. So I'm not really sure what other people would consider good or not, but for the light gaming that I do with like Tram Sim Vienna and with Train Sim World 2, with Euro Truck, with GTA, 5 and online, it is a perfectly fine solution. And keep in mind that I don't have the best computer ever, so your results may vary. Now onto the things that I just hate about this distro. None, basically. I don't really say that I hate something. I did actually have a problem relatively recently, and that was with the NVIDIA drivers not being properly updated by the NVIDIA developer, so that's not really a Fedora problem. I updated one day my system, I select restart and update because I still wanted to use my computer but just wanted to have all the updates finished, and when it came back, it never launched X. X would always argue and saying that no, we can't launch this, there's some sort of issue. It will return with error code and exit code 1 or something, I don't remember. And I contacted the Fedora devs. This issue persisted for like a full 2 to 3 days, and I had to use my computer, so I was using my Chromebook, which is probably one of the worst Chromebooks performance-wise, to do all my work. And then one of the Fedora developers contacted me saying that my issue should be fixed now. They contacted NVIDIA and they pushed an emergency patch. So I went and did all the commands that they told me to do, updated the system again, recompiled some stuff from source, and the system came back up. A lot of stuff were broken graphically, but after a few reboots, it all went back to normal, and I'm super glad for that. And now that Fedora 36 is out and that I'm using Wayland, I still get some graphical issues. For instance, the moment the computer boots up and Wayland display and the GNOME Display Manager launches, I get just a blank screen and I have to switch to a different terminal session and then back to the first one, which is where GDM launches, and then I have to log in. And for the first couple of times after a specific update of Fedora 36, I was logging in, I had to do this 3 or 4 times, and then it would say that I had to give it administrator privileges to update metadata. It hasn't done this in a long couple of while, but yeah, it still is a bit weird having to switch over to TTY and then back to graphical in order to actually get your system up and running, but yeah. Another thing that I absolutely love about Fedora is vanilla GNOME. You obviously know this, that I just love GNOME. It's probably, for me, it's the best desktop environment ever. I know that's not for a lot of people, and for a lot of people they do actually require extensions for them to work properly, but actually I did use some extensions, but after some updates extensions turn off automatically to not cause any problems, and I sometimes forget to turn them back on for a couple of weeks. And when I turn them back on, I don't really realize anything. The only extensions that I use are the run cut, which is basically how much CPU power I'm using, and then the Fedora logo on background. And I do use some other stuff like tray icons because this is something that I do need, but most of the time I don't have any app running in the background. Like right now, my top bar is basically empty. And that was Fedora 36. Everyone keeps asking me why I like socks so much, and so I decided to actually make a quick little short video on YouTube to actually talk about it. And there aren't really a lot of reasons, but basically that I really like how they look. Okay, like I love the look, I love the feeling, I love the fact that it's made out of plastic, I love plastic water bottles, I'm sorry, recycled. Yeah, I just love that. Then I do also really like the fact that they most of the times donate part of the money to like cleaner water or something, and like the Trevor project and all that. Like with this one, they do actually donate like I think $1 to the Trevor project or something. And I do also really like all the positive messages that you have on the inside. Like when I'm having a really bad day, I can just look at my wrist and be like, yeah, things will turn better or something. So that is mainly why I love my socks so much and why I keep purchasing again and again and again from then. And I've passed 1 minute, so this won't be a short, but okay, I don't care, I'm not even gonna edit it. Well, thank you there for telling us about these little amazing bracelets. Thank you so much, Zox, for being a partner of this channel, But now let's continue on with, Ubuntu. Ubuntu. Yes. Now I know that the latest version is 22.04, which is an LTS, but I actually haven't used it. I know that this sounds weird to you, but I haven't used 22.04 LTS Ubuntu, and it's mainly because I don't really see the reason to use it anymore. It's really complicated. Ubuntu used to be probably the best all-around Linux distribution, and I actually remember that it was the first distro that I actually got my hands on and that I actually used. I think that was back in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, and yes, I really loved it back then. Yeah, I do actually remember myself being like, yeah, I want to get back to my computer just to see that desktop. Actually, back then I was like a little bit too young to actually install distros myself, and my dad was actually the one that installed all these distros, and actually only Ubuntu, but a couple of versions, and we actually used a CD that we got with Ubuntu 14.04, I think, and it had the Unity desktop, which I loved, and my computer couldn't handle it. It was built for Windows 95 or 98, I don't really remember, I think 98, because in Greece we didn't really have computers till like the early 2000s, but that computer was built for Windows 98, I think, so yeah, it couldn't even run Windows 7, which was the OS that it had, so we dual booted, and it kinda worked and kinda didn't. The animations were way too slow and laggy, but the OS actually worked, and I remember that, yeah, I really liked Ubuntu back then. And then I got a brand new computer, it came pre-installed with Windows 10, and we didn't really want to void the warranty or anything, so I stayed with Windows 10 for a while, and yeah, I completely forgot about Linux basically till 2018, around 2018, where I actually went ahead and tried Linux again using virtual machines, VirtualBox on Windows 10, and my computer was extremely laggy. You can see the early days of my channel, the early videos are recorded using that computer and that OS, and it was really laggy. I came down to the point of having to reinstall Windows 10 fresh around every 6 months or so. So that wasn't really good, and the only way to reinstall Windows without voiding the warranty was to use the Lenovo recovery tool, and that basically got a snapshot of the system and then, rolled back to it. And yeah, that version was from like 2015 when Windows 10 first came out, and yeah, I had to like keep the computer running a couple of nights actually to be able to download all the updates of Windows 10 and then install it and all that. So yeah, that wasn't a really good experience basically, and that was why I started trying Linux again using virtual machines. The first distro that I actually installed without a dual boot on my system was Debian 10, which for that time was the longest running distro on my computer. I stayed with it for around 4 months, loved Debian 10, and then I used Ubuntu for a while, and Ubuntu has changed. I actually tried to main Ubuntu again with my computer, the one that I have now. You can see the video saying that I got a new PC for Distro Reviews, which is a little bit clickbaity, yeah. I showcased there how I'm using Ubuntu, using the Unity desktop, because up to this day, I love Unity. And I was really sad that Ubuntu did away with it, although let's be real, Unity, super outdated. No reason to use it basically, no reason to keep it alive. So yeah, now if I'm being honest, I am using Ubuntu Touch on a secondary device, which was my old phone. Yeah, I still use it to this day. Using Ubuntu Touch, the Lomiri desktop, amazing, and I know that Unity 10 is something that is being worked on, but I'm not sure if or when it's going to be released. But yeah, the point that I'm trying to get to, I've rambled a bit, but yeah, the point that I'm trying to get to is that there isn't really a reason for Ubuntu to exist right now, because they've made some really bad decisions, like the whole Amazon thing that they did. Yeah, they made some really bad decisions. For instance, snaps. Now, I don't really hate snaps because of like being closed source or anything. I do actually use some closed source applications, and I'm fine with it, although I do try to use open source. I don't really have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is that it's super slow. I'm not sure why, I'm not a developer, I'm not an expert, but it is really, really slow. Actually, Snap was the first universal packaging format that I used on Debian, and I used to love it back then, but after trying Flatpak, yeah, it is extremely, extremely slow and laggy. And if you want to uninstall it on Ubuntu, good luck doing that, because every single update, it brings back Snap. And now they've done it so that every single system application, except for a couple, are actually Snap packages. Why? If we want to use a universal packaging format, let's just use Flatpak or even app images. If we want to use something that's universal, like with Windows that just have an exe file or a MSI. We don't have to use Snap, and yeah, the thing with Ubuntu is that just there isn't a reason for it to exist. But let's just get onto the checklist before actually continuing on. So, updates and package manager, I've already kind of talked about it. I hate snaps, and apt, let's be real, it's not really the best. So, I guess that if you do actually like it, then sure, go ahead and use it. But it's just not for me. I really like DNF with Fedora, so yeah. Flatpak, app image, snap support. Well, basically only snap support. You can install app images and flatpaks and all that, but it's basically made to be centered around snaps, and you don't really have to install flatpaks because, okay, well, if I had to use Ubuntu, I would definitely install flatpaks because I actually want to be able to open my applications app quickly. And before you start saying, well, you can just use the package manager, no, because if you do like sudo apt install Firefox, it will install the snap version for some reason. So yeah, that's one of those really bad decisions that they made. Now, applications and kernel. This is interesting. If you use the LTS version, then both of these are super outdated. Okay, maybe not the kernel, but the applications are super outdated for 2 years. If you use the quote-unquote latest version, well, it's somewhat up to date, but not really. I remember that the last time that I actually used Ubuntu was using a latest version, although it was back then an LTS version, but that was the latest. And then I updated to the latest again after that, and that was when I hoped or something, or a little bit before that. But yeah, I prefer having every single application and kernel being really up to date, and having the desktop environment and some other critical components being semi-rolling, so every 6 months or so updating them. That's what Fedora does, and that's what I prefer on my system. So that's why I don't really like Ubuntu about the applications and the kernel. Driver installation is a bit weird. I'm not sure if I've already put Linux Mint here. I know that I haven't recorded it yet, but what I want to say there is that I've had loads and loads of issues with the drivers manager of Ubuntu, and the fact that I hit install and then it will either not install or it would just not work properly. And so I hate the driver support, and I know that a lot of people have issues with that specific way of doing drivers. Now, Ubuntu actually has a button on the installer to install the drivers, which I think is the way to go. Or to just include a different ISO with drivers and third-party stuff like Debian does, or at least used to when Debian 10 released. I'm not sure if they do it again, still. But yeah, I haven't really had the best experience with drivers, so yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe they fixed it, I don't know. And now lastly, gaming. I wasn't gaming back then. I wasn't gaming at all. Like, zero gaming. So I have no idea what to tell you guys about gaming. Probably it's good for gaming actually, but I don't know. It's so simple. I have no idea about that. So, now that we finished the checklist, was there something that I absolutely hated? Snaps. I hated snaps. And something that I loved? No. And I'm gonna explain to you why. When I was using Ubuntu, it was because it was way simpler to install, use, configure and all that to all the other distros back then. And that was the case when it first came out, and that was the reason, was to make like the humane distro. And yeah, it had a slogan like something with human and humanity. I don't really remember what it was. I think Ubuntu in an African language means community or something. So yeah, but right now there isn't really a reason to exist. If we're being 100% honest, I don't have an issue like the people making it. I just don't really feel like there is a reason for Ubuntu to exist, because there are other amazing distros for what you need, and it's not really beginner friendly either. If you want something beginner friendly, you would go with like Linux Mint, Zorin OS, or something like that. You wouldn't go with Ubuntu. And yeah, they've actually made some pretty bad decisions, and they're not going back on them. And so I'm not really sure what to think about Ubuntu. Personally, I have somewhat deleted Ubuntu from my brain. I know that it's the base to a lot of fantastic Linux distributions like Mint and Zorin and all that, but yeah, I do acknowledge the fact that they made a great difference on the world of Linux desktop computing, and I know that if Ubuntu wasn't a thing, then I wouldn't be using Fedora right now, I wouldn't be using Linux, and I wouldn't be doing this channel right now and this show. But I don't think that it's worth using Ubuntu right now. I'm not saying that they should stop maintaining it and updating and all that, because it's a base to a lot of fantastic distros, but maybe start thinking about why there are so many remixes and why there are so many distros based on Ubuntu and not a lot based on Fedora. Yeah, I think that that's a pretty clear way of figuring out if a distro is good or not. I think that if it's super amazing and good for what it wants to do, then there shouldn't be a lot of distros based on it. And if it doesn't, then you have a myriad. And if we do the graph of all the Linux distros, you can see that most of them are based on Ubuntu, which on itself is based on Debian. So yeah, that's something to think about right now. I know, pretty deep. So yeah, that was Ubuntu. I have written 2204 LTS, but I haven't used it, so that was Ubuntu in general. That was definitely interesting, and that was definitely my opinions and not everyone's opinions on Ubuntu. So let's just switch it up a bit and go to Solus. This is going to be fun. If you were following me along for the journey for quite some time, then you probably already know that I used to use Solus on a daily basis on my main computer, and I think that was for around a year, or maybe a little bit more than a year. It was around 2020 to 2021. I don't really remember, but yeah, it was around a year during the whole lockdown thing. So yeah, and I can't really say that I hated the experience, as for like most of the time I didn't really want to hop, although I did actually encounter some difficulties with using Solus. But I want to actually start from the beginning before talking a bit about the checklist that I have. I want to talk about my whole experience with Solus first. And actually, I'm not going to talk about the whole experience, I'm going to talk about the backstory with Solus. I remember that I found out about Solus when it was on version 3.9999. I don't remember how many nines there were, but I remember that I saw it from a fellow YouTuber, and they actually used to do Distro reviews called EG. I think that they actually called the series Distro Delves. Yeah, and they sometimes do this, but yeah, I don't think that they're that active anymore. They used to upload more than one Distro Delve a week, and that was what got me into Distro reviews myself, actually. But yeah, I remember that I found out from there. I then started searching around for Solus, and it was actually a really nice distribution. But then I remember just a few days later, Solus 4.0 or Solus 4 came out. And yeah, that was when I actually started trying to use Solus, but I would go for the Budgie version every single time because, you know, that's the flagship version. Now, Solus with Budgie, I hate it. Okay, there are two main downsides basically to using Solus with the Budgie desktop environment, and that is the fact that although they actually develop the Budgie desktop, they don't use it the way that it is intended to be used. They don't use the default layout. They actually customize it, and quite heavily actually, to make it seem like it's a Windows alternative, which Budgie, you can make it a Windows lookalike, but it's not really the default, and I really like using my desktop environment's default. That's why I use GNOME actually. But if we leave that aside, I would have incredible problems with stability using Budgie. For instance, I installed Budgie on my system. I went to, do the update of the system, because after you install Solus, since Solus is semi-rolling release, and because actually Solus snapshots the ISO every once a year or something, there were quite a lot of updates. So I do them, and then it says, okay, reboot. I reboot, and then basically nothing was working in terms of Budgie. I tried doing some troubleshooting around, but I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Settings wouldn't open, Nautilus wouldn't open, and a lot of other stuff would just be broken. I couldn't use them. So I then switched back to another distro, I don't remember what, and I technically forgot about Solus till version 4.1, I think, was the next one. I don't really remember the naming scheme of Solus, and that was when I gave it another go. But this time I decided to go for the GNOME version, since I do really enjoy GNOME. And that was when I actually started using it properly, and that was when the whole year happened, and I used the material cell. That was when GNOME 3.38 got released, and I don't think that I ever got that update on Solus. I don't think that I ever got 3.38 using Solus, because here's the worst part about Solus. Something happened with the dev team. I don't really remember exactly what it was, but Solus didn't see an update in around a year, basically. So while I was using Solus, no updates, and then the whole comeback of the developer team was a bit weird. I think that the lead developer left. I'm not sure if it was for health issues or what, but they actually left. And then suddenly I got a notification that there were updates, and for quite a lot of time I forgot that, computers update. And I was like, oh yeah, I have to update. And there were kind of a lot of packages I updated, and then after 2 more weeks I got another update, and I was like, okay, so they're starting to push out more updates. And then I go and look at my settings, and I see that the version was 4.2, so they silently made a new snapshot and updated some stuff with wallpapers and everything. And a few days later they actually announced it with a press release and all that, and DistroWatch picked it up and all that. So yeah, I remember that I made a Reddit post about it, being like, did they silently upgrade everyone to 4.2, made a new snapshot? And one of the devs replied being like, shh, don't tell anyone. So yeah, that was fun basically. But then I started getting more and more issues with Solus, and I don't think that I can go really deep about talking about all the issues that I had with Solus, because there were quite a lot actually. Stability issues, app version issues, that some apps were completely outdated, and I just couldn't really use Solus anymore, and I just switched to another distro. Once again, don't remember what distro it was, but yeah, I've actually tried using Solus again, but I just can't. So, updates and package manager. Well, I told you that I didn't really get a lot of updates, but Solus probably has the worst package manager there is. It's not really slow, but it's not really fast, and doesn't give you... If you're using the Solus Software Center, it's probably the worst software center there is. Because it's super laggy, and it actually doesn't give you any progress indicator. Okay, it does, but then we say that, okay, 5 of 5 installed. Yeah, but it's not finished. If you close Software Center, then you break your system basically. You can't install or upgrade everything. At least that's what happened to me multiple times. So yeah, through the terminal it is really nice and all that, but the packages are really outdated. But one thing that I really loved about it is the third party section on the Software Center, that you can install apps that are third party and closed source software and all that. So yeah, that was really nice. For instance, you could install Google Chrome, Viber, Skype and all that just with one button. Actually, I had another issue with the Software Center. It was while installing NVIDIA drivers, I would open up Dofleaky, which is the driver manager. I would hit install, and it would say something like installed 59 out of 6. I'm not sure what maths that was, and then I would reboot, and it would be like, you need to install drivers, but I just did. No, you thought you did. And I had to do that 3 or 4 times before it actually installed. Flatpak, app image, snap support. I do not remember, because back then I wasn't really using Flatpaks or snaps or app images or anything. I was just using the default repos, and that might have been the reason why I switched, because of super outdated packages. But okay, let's be real, I had some other issues that if you were following the channel and me on Twitter, well, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I can't really tell you anything about that. I think that it is supported. Let me go and do a quick little search actually. So if I go over to flatpak.org and I let my amazingly fast internet load the web page, I do not get a single thing because I don't really have internet right now. Yeah, my internet is super horrible, super shit, but yeah. I am pretty sure that you can use it, although I'm not sure if I recommend it. Applications and kernel. Well, I've already technically talked about these super old applications, and you basically don't get updates. At least that was the deal back then. I'm not sure if they changed something now. And the kernel was also kinda outdated, but at the same time not really outdated. It was an LTS kernel, and it was getting updates sometimes. So yeah, it wasn't that bad. I think that it was just a few versions behind Fedora, which by itself it doesn't have the latest kernel, but yeah. Drivers. I never really had an issue with drivers, NVIDIA drivers, but at the same time, I had issues installing them. Like, Fedora is a walk in the park compared to it, and with Solus you just hit one button to install, so yeah. And lastly, gaming. I was doing some gaming, but not really all that much, and I still don't do all that much gaming, but I now do at least a little bit more. So I'm not really sure what happened with gaming. I don't really think that it's the best distro if you want gaming. Yeah, if you want gaming, just use another distro, okay? It's that simple, okay guys? Now, was there something that I really liked about Solus? Probably the stability. Most of the times, I would do like stuff for school, or something else, or I would just browse the internet, and I had no issues with that basically. Everything was working just fine. If I didn't actually have to think about the outdated packages, then everything would be fine. It was actually kind of stable if you didn't mess around with it, and if you used the GNOME version and not the Budgie. And was there something that I absolutely hated? Well, I can't really say that. I think that it's just that I have changed as a person, and what I want my computer to be able to do and my Linux distro to do has actually changed. And I think that that is why I can't really use Solus right now, but I'm not saying that it is the worst distro. I can definitely see myself installing it on a laptop, but at the same time I'm not seeing myself doing that because there are a lot of fantastic Linux distributions out there. And yeah, that's just my opinions about Solus. I know that a lot of people hate it. As I told you, I don't really want to pick a side here, but yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle. Probably more towards I like it. You know, it was really nice being like, you know what, by the way, I use Solus. So yeah, and that is Solus Linux. Alright, so I've just finished the actual like recording and editing and all that of the first distro, and I have it right here actually. So as you can see, this is like the actual final video that you guys are gonna see. I'm currently skipping forward quite a bit. Yeah, it's not really a lot of stuff going on, but yeah, it's mainly gonna be my voice and then like some little, maybe like animations or something like that. Yeah, that's how the final video turned out. You probably already seen it, yeah. I'm not sure why I'm showing this to you again, or maybe you haven't. Maybe the distro right after this little interval, I don't know. Today it's June 9th of 2022, I got this idea a bit over a month ago, so yeah, it's slowly coming all together. I've made all the animations, and now I just have to record the other 4 distros, do all the polls, the voting, the remaining animations for like the actual winner and all that, and then start promoting the show. Yeah, it's gonna take a while. Right now I'm hoping for August of 2022. Right now this is the target date. I'm not sure if I managed to actually make it, but yeah, that's it. Back to the show. So yeah, you've probably realized that this is a really big project for me. I've never done something big this long as a video. Like, it's gonna be probably over an hour, and I know that most of my audience is never gonna see this, so amazing. But I just wanted everything to end on a good note. But anyway, let's just continue on with Linux Mint. Alright, now it's time for Linux Mint. Now, at the time of recording this, there has been a brand new beta, I think released, announced, I don't know, but I haven't used it. I won't be 100% honest with you. Probably by the time that you actually get to see all this footage and Distro Reviews 3, probably it's gonna be like the latest stable release, but currently it is not. Let me actually do a quick search to find out what the latest version is. Heading over to linuxmint.com, I can see that the latest version is called Una, and it's 20.3. So yeah, this is the latest version at the time of recording this. Alright, so my whole experience with Linux Mint. I've been on and off, loving and hating it at the same time. Now, why is that, might ask? The answer to that question is, I don't really know, actually. It's not that I 100% hate Linux Mint, because I like it, actually. I think that I like it more than I hate it. But there have been some times that I just didn't really feel like using it, okay? My story with Linux Mint started a few years ago. I actually can't remember the year, but it was probably 2019. And back then I still had my Lenovo IdeaPad 100, and my dad actually had a Toshiba NB200 built for Windows XP. It was running Windows 10 and was incredibly slow, so we decided to install Linux Mint, I think Cinnamon version, 32-bit, because he actually didn't really need to use a computer. So yeah, that was my first experience with it. Obviously, before recommending that distro, I had already tried it on Windows 10 VM, VirtualBox probably. I really liked it, so yeah, why not? Then, a couple of years later, I started using Linux Mint myself. It was 2019, late 2019, a few weeks before I got my brand new PC, and I was using it, but again on that laptop, using 2 monitors because the monitor for my new PC had arrived, but I still didn't have my new PC, so I installed the monitor, installed my laptop next to it, and I decided to use Linux Mint, and I loved it. Again, there wasn't anything wrong with it, and I was using it for a couple of weeks, and then I remember that the week before my new computer came, I installed Kubuntu. I'm not really sure why, just wanted KDE, I guess, and I didn't really love it as much, but yeah, that computer went to my dad with Kubuntu, and we then installed Windows 10, and it still runs Windows 10, but yeah, when I got my new computer, I continued with Kubuntu, and then you know the whole story. I'm not gonna repeat it right now. But basically, what I want to say is that while I was using Linux Mint back then, I really loved it. And now you'd probably be like, then why do you say that you love and hated it? Well, I don't remember exactly when, but it probably was 1 year, maybe 1.5 years ago. I tried using Linux Mint again on this computer. Why? Because I really wanted to give Cinnamon a proper go. I decided to try Ubuntu Cinnamon Remix, but then I was like, you know what, it doesn't really work that well in my system, let's do Linux Mint. So I installed the Cinnamon version. Display was really weird, looked at a really weird resolution on the live installer, but I actually went ahead and installed it, wiped everything. Back then I only had 1 drive, so it was a big deal when I was actually formatting my computer, and was a mechanical 1TB drive, so it took a while. But yeah, I did it, and then my computer didn't boot again because driver issues. I tried the Noveu and Nomodset and all that, but nothing really worked. I'm not really sure what the problem was. I tried again using again Cinnamon, and this time it did boot but failed to install drivers. So that is the reason why I started hating Linux Mint, because I had severe driver issues with NVIDIA, and then I had to reinstall a different operating system and all that. So yeah, have I used Linux Mint since then? No. Will I ever? Chances are that I won't, but that's not to say that I don't want to or that I can't. I do think that Linux Mint is one of the good or one of the best Linux distros right now. It's really good for beginners and all that, but at the same time it's not really my thing. I'm amazingly well right now with my Fedora, so I wouldn't be changing that, but that's not to say that Linux Mint is a bad distribution. And basically the only issue I have with it is that it's Ubuntu based, but they actually go a long way changing stuff that the Ubuntu team Canonical has changed. So they changed it back to how it was to be better. I don't think they use snaps at all. I think snapd is removed by default. And yeah, they do some really great stuff, like the welcome app is one of the best. And they do maintain their own desktop environment, which is something that you don't see all that often nowadays. I really like it. I don't love Cinnamon, but I just really like the fact that they have their own desktop environment. But let's just go to the checklist. Updates and package manager. Well, they use apt, they don't use snaps, and updates are not really on a schedule. They just update whenever there's something to update and whenever they feel like the latest update is actually good, which I think is a good thing, but that means that it's most of the times a little bit back, so you don't get the latest versions of stuff. Okay, it's based on Ubuntu LTS, but yeah. Now, if I'm being honest, probably they have the best software manager out there, or at least one of the best software managers. The graphical GUI way of installing, it's amazing and includes Flatpaks, so why not? I love it. Flatpak, app image, snap support. Flatpak is installed out of the box and you can use it through the software center graphically without enabling anything. Snap, they have removed it, so why would you go and reinstall it? Of course you can, but I wouldn't really advise you. And app images obviously work just fine. Yeah, I know that there were some issues with app images, but I think they've been resolved. Applications and kernel, well, since it's based on an LTS version of Ubuntu, expect the same as my Ubuntu review, which you've probably already seen / heard by now. So yeah, it's really old, but because it uses Flatpaks, it doesn't really feel that old. And because the actual desktop is a rolling release, yeah, it feels like it's pretty up to date, although the core apps are not, and the kernel, which I think is a really good balance, if I'm being honest. Now, driver support, not the best, because it uses the Ubuntu driver manager, which I've already rambled on for hours on live streams about how horrible it is for me, not for everyone. I know that for most people it is great, but just I guess I have a weird computer. And lastly, gaming. Obviously you can game on it. I haven't tried gaming on it actually, but obviously you can install Steam through the software center graphically, and you can install all your games, use Proton, use One, use Lutris, everything. So I wouldn't expect to have any issues with that. I'm not sure if it's the best performing one, but yeah. Now that is the checklist. What I just want to highlight is that the team behind Linux Mint has made it clear that they don't agree with everything Canonical does to Ubuntu, and they have a plan B called LMDE, Linux Mint Debian Edition. They're sitting around waiting to actually being used, and it is actually basically ready at this point to replace Linux Mint, the Ubuntu version, in case something happens. So yeah, I think that's great. Now, LMD is way behind the latest version in terms of like the applications and the kernel, but I think that's a good plan to fall back to in case something goes wrong with Canonical, so thumbs up for that. Now that was Linux Mint. And that concludes all of the 4 distros that I've used as a daily driver and that I have mixed basically opinions about them, except for Fedora. Obviously I'm still using Fedora right now, I'm looking here at this Fedora. But yeah, now when I first started thinking about Distro Review Season 3, that was last year, and the first thing that I thought was, you know what, I think that the more interesting distributions are the ones that deserve to be shown on Distro Reviews, and I don't want to do the big ones again, so I think that we should do just a bonus one, without the checklist, without anything. I think that we should just do Magia. And here is a really fun one, and technically a bonus. Here we have Magia, or Magia, because it comes from a Greek word, it means magic, and yeah. Now, I'm gonna be 100% transparent with you, I have never used Magia as my main distro on my computer or anything. I just think that it's a really weird and fun project that just really wanted to talk about. The reason being that Distro Reviews was originally, the season 3 was originally for these kinda weirder Linux distributions that deserve to be seen. So yeah, here is a fun little bonus. I won't go through the checklist or anything, I'll just talk just a few minutes about it and then we'll continue on with the ranking. So, how I first heard about Magia, I have no idea, but I was on version 7 or something, I don't really remember, and I remember being like, huh, that's weird, and then continuing on with my day. Then Magia 8 released, and I made a big video about it. I was using it for a few days on a virtual machine, and on my external hard drive for Distro Reviews. There was a Distro Reviews Season 2 episode coming out, but I just couldn't make it because of some other limitations that I don't really want to get into it right now. But yeah, there was an episode coming about Magia 8. And I actually went ahead and installed it on the 32-bit, and Tenacity has officially crashed. Okay. I'm not sure what happened, Tenacity technically crashed right now, so let me just continue. Yeah, I actually went the extra way of installing it on my 32-bit Toshiba NB200, not my dad isn't using it, and just sitting there. And I installed it using XFCE and everything, and it was performing okay. It's not the fastest distro, but yeah, the computer is really old, 1 GB of RAM. And I have mixed opinions about it. I'm not sure what it is trying to be. I know that it uses DNF, but I don't think it's based on Fedora. I'm 99% sure it's not based. Let me do a DistroWatch check of Magia. And it says here that it's based on independent. So yeah, it's 100% independent. Origin is France. Okay, nice. Let's just see the rating. It has an 8.4 rating out of 213 reviews at the time of recording this, and latest version is 8. Okay, so I actually started reading some of the reviews, and most of them have given it a 9 or a 10 out of 10 review, saying that it is basically rock solid, and it does have the timely security updates and some other general updates, but it is not rolling release, it's not bleeding edge software. I wouldn't like that, but I think for a lot of people this is probably the best combination. But what I want to talk about, and what I have actually used, is Magia Control Center. It's basically Yast on Magia. Yeah, basically it is Yast for Magia. I don't really have anything else to say. It's really powerful, that's where you do all your updates, that's where you install your software from. It's not really user-friendly, but Magia is not trying to be user-friendly, so it's perfectly fine. So yeah, I'm not sure what else to say right now. That's basically all my opinions I have about Magia. I just thought that it really deserved to be shown, because I actually really enjoyed it while I was using it. I didn't really have any issues with it. I'm pretty sure that it doesn't use the latest version of GNOME. Let me just search this up real quick. This is version 8 that we're talking about, and it has had a new release called Cauldron on the 19th. Oh, yesterday. They had a brand new release yesterday. Okay, congratulations Magia for that. But let me go to the packages and try to find the GNOME Shell. GNOME Shell is version 42.3.1 on Cauldron and version 3.38.3 on 8. So yeah, it's not really the latest. And if we actually go and try to download it, it does redirect us to the about Magia 8. So not really Cauldron. Yeah, I'm not really sure where you would go to download that. I'm not sure if it's an actual release or just some beta. It's RPMs, it says here. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe it's just an update to 8, so you get all the updates. I'm guessing that probably is the case. As I can see here, they have a release every 2 years or so. So we'll probably see a brand new release next year, 2023. And I am super excited for that, actually. I can't wait for Magia 9. I'll definitely cover it on an initial thoughts episode if I'm still active on YouTube. Yeah, because I probably already told you the news. I'm not gonna cover them here in case I actually haven't talked about it yet. But I'll probably have at the beginning of this little series, basically. I'm not sure if it's been over an hour since the episode started. But yeah, I'm rambling. This is the Magia section, so I better cut this now. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about Magia. It's gonna stay out of the bunch. So yeah, this is just a nice little bonus. And that was Magia. That was the bonus. And like that, we finished. There's nothing more to do right now than to just rank the distros in order of preference for me. Yeah, it's not for anyone. But before we do that, I just want to take a few minutes to talk about something. Alright, so what I actually wanted to talk about is that I am stopping this whole thing with seasons for now. Obviously, I'm ending Distro Reviews. This will be the last episode of Distro Reviews for now. This doesn't mean that the initial thoughts will be cancelled or something. No, I just don't really want to review distributions as everyone has different opinions about it. So I think that's something that I have to do. But with the Papa's Film Show, the podcast, it's gonna stay on season 2 for a while, probably a couple of years, because I'm gonna take a step back from actually being here and making videos, and I'm gonna see how that goes. I'm still gonna continue to post. I'm just not going to be as active, basically. I'm not sure if that makes any sense to you, but I don't really have basically the time or the mental energy to continue making this. Not even once a month. I don't know, maybe I will obviously continue to post stuff, but just I won't be as active. And for all of you who are actually really wanting to hear a new podcast, there will be a new podcast probably soon. I'm not sure when, but it will happen, don't worry. And that was it. I don't have anything else to say. This video is probably already like 15 minutes long, and who's gonna watch this, okay? Yeah, just as I said, I just wanted to have a really good outro to the series and everything. So yeah, I just want this to end really quickly. This is the big project that I was working since April probably, and it's currently July. OBS has crashed 4 times while I'm recording this. This is the 5th time that I'm recording this part, so I really hope that this works right now. Let's do the ranking again. We're gonna go from 4 to 1, 4 being the least favorite and 1 being my favorite. And yeah, we're gonna exclude Magia because I haven't used it as a daily driver, and let's just get going with it. On number 4 we have Ubuntu. Not because it's a really bad base, but because I just don't really like it. Yeah, my personal opinion about Ubuntu, I don't like it. I don't really find a reason for it to exist. For me, it's a base to a lot of amazing Linux distributions like Pop! OS, Linux Mint, Zorin OS, and loads and loads, like a myriad of other distros. But I don't really find a reason for it to exist. Snaps, and I just don't find a reason for it to exist. On number 3, though, we have Solus. And you're probably gonna be like, well, you were using Solus for over a year. Why not higher? And my answer to that question is that I just don't really feel like using it anymore. It has loads of issues right now with the developer team and the updates, and it's a bit behind basically every single distro on updates, even Debian sometimes, and I just don't really feel like using it again. My needs have changed from iOS, so that's why. I'm not denying that history I had with Solus, and I still really liked that few months to a year that I was using Solus for, but just my needs from iOS have changed, as I've already told you. And yeah, number 2. Well, you can guess probably what it is. It's Linux Mint. Why Linux Mint on number 2? Is the distro that I would use if I was using the one that I'm currently using? The answer to that is probably not. But out of the 4 distros that have been influential to me, I think that's it deserves second place. Yeah, I don't really have anything more to say. It's a fantastic base, basically. Or not really base, it's like a fantastic system to have on a computer that you don't really care about tweaking and messing around with it. It's perfect for beginners and non-beginners, actually. For intermediate Linux users, it's rock solid, rock stable, great updates, somewhat frequent, so why not use it, I guess. And lastly, number 1, we have Fedora. I'm using Fedora for over 1.5 years, probably around 2 years actually. I've started using it back with Fedora 32, then I took a break, then back with 33, and then 34 came around. I took a break, then came back to 34, 35, and I'm on 36 without having formatted anything, and I don't really find a reason to format or to distro hop. I don't really have that anymore. I just really love Fedora. Right now, my computer is Fedora. If I had a laptop, it would probably be running Fedora. And yeah, I just really love Fedora. It's really stable, there's nothing wrong with it. I've had some issues with it, and some of them still haven't been resolved after a year or a couple of months. But the positives are definitely way too many, and so I don't really care about the few negatives that it has. And I think I found my home with Fedora. And that's it. Like that, we've completely finished distro reviews, and now there's nothing more left to do. Yeah, I've already told you guys that I'm gonna be slowing down my content, and that I just don't really feel like distro reviews should continue to exist as a series. And the answer to that question is actually pretty easy, pretty simple. I've already talked about it at the start. If you weren't paying attention, it's basically that everyone has different opinions about distros and what they like and don't. So I don't think that the distro deserves to be ranked or reviewed by someone, because another user might find it the best distro, and some other user might find it the worst distro. Like for instance, me with Fedora and Ubuntu, I think Fedora is the best, Ubuntu is one of the worst. And maybe you start commenting right beneath this video, being like, no, it's completely the other way around, Ubuntu is the best, Fedora is the worst. So yeah, you can see everyone has different opinions on this matter. And so yeah, I'm ending these reviews, I'm ending basically nothing else. I'm just ending these reviews. It's gonna stay on the banner because it played a big role of the channel, but just not gonna be posting anymore, if you get what I mean. And yeah, I think that this is a big part of my history coming to an end, and I want to thank you guys so much for all the support throughout the years, basically with season 1, which was one of the worst seasons, season 2, which I think is still the best, and now with Distro Reviews 3, not season 3, Distro Reviews 3. Each one episode over an hour probably, I'm not sure. I'm currently recording for around 40 minutes, but it has crashed multiple times. And yeah, I really hope that you enjoyed it. I want to do something special for the finale. I know that I haven't announced it anywhere that it's gonna be the last episode, but it is. And yeah, I don't really want to continue for hours, not like it's gonna be the last video that I'll post ever on this channel or on any other channels. So I think that we should end this year, and that I should probably go and find the person that decided to quit a few seconds before broadcasting this to you. So yeah, thank you so much.